Welcome to Priviso Live, your weekly South African vodcast covering information security, ICT legislation, and artificial intelligence. I'm Lynn.
And I'm Stephen. Good to be with you all again.
And I'm Kayla. Stephen, you look like you survived the week, just barely.
Kayla, you say that every single week.
Because every week it looks that way.
Right, let's get to it. We have 3 cracker stories today, and trust me, every single one of them has something to say to practitioners in this space.
We're looking at a very sobering PoPIA enforcement case right here in South Africa. Something from the United States that will make you look at your neighbor's house differently. And we're revisiting the Starlink debate with some actual evidence this time.
All in 10 minutes, no pressure.
None at all. Let's go. First up, a story that every HR manager, every CFO, and every information security practitioner in South Africa should read before they close their laptop today. South Africa's information regulator has issued a formal enforcement notice against Central Johannesburg TVET College, known as CJC.
Now, for listeners who are new to the show or who are joining us from outside South Africa, let me give a bit of context. PoPIA, the Protection of Personal Information Act, is South Africa's primary data privacy legislation. It came into full effect in 2021, and it governs how organizations collect, process, store, and protect personal information. The Information Regulator is the independent statutory body that polices compliance.
And when the regulator issues an enforcement notice, that is not a friendly tap on the shoulder. That is a formal legal instruction. Fix this now.
So what happened? The college was placed under administration to address some governance failures. As part of that process, employees' credentials were being verified, qualifications checked, criminal records assessed, all entirely legitimate. Then, in the middle of communicating a finance policy to her team, the acting CFO accidentally attached those personal staff verification reports to the email. Reports that contained private information about employees' qualifications and criminal history. And that email went to staff members who had absolutely no business seeing it.
The email was recalled 2 days later. An internal investigation was conducted. Corrective action was taken against the person responsible. So the college responded. They tried to make it right.
And the regulator still issued a formal enforcement notice.
Because as the regulator was very clear about, internal cleanup is not the same thing as legal compliance. 3 violations were confirmed, and I think it is worth going through each one carefully.
Violation number 1, Section 15 of PoPIA, unlawful further processing. Sharing those reports, even accidentally, with people who were not authorized to receive them is a breach of PoPIA. The law does not carry an honest mistake exemption. Personal information may only be processed for the specific purpose for which it was collected, and it may only be shared with those who are authorized to receive it.
That one still surprises people every time. But it was an accident. Yes, it was. Still a violation.
Violation number 2, Section 19, inadequate security safeguards. The regulator found that the college had no adequate controls to prevent this from happening. No proper access controls, no segregated file systems, no organizational measures. The door was left open.
And violation number 3 is the one that catches almost every organization off guard. Section 22, failure to notify. When personal information is accessed by an unauthorized person, you are legally required to formally notify the information regulator and the affected individuals. Not just internally, formally. Sending an internal oops email to your own team does not count. The college never notified the regulator. That obligation does not disappear because you handle things quietly in-house.
And underneath all of this, no registered information officer, which, let's be honest, is still the single biggest gap in PoPIA compliance across South African organizations. It is astonishing in 2026 how many companies still haven't done this.
The regulator issued a specific remedy schedule. Within 31 days, register the information officer, formally notify the regulator and the affected employees of the breach, issue a written apology distributed across the entire organization, and submit the compliance framework. Within 60 days, complete disciplinary proceedings against the employee responsible. Within 90 days, PoPIA training for all staff with documented proof of completion.
And if they don't comply?
It is a criminal offense. Carrying up to 10 years imprisonment.
10 years? For a misdirected email?
For a misdirected email, the absence of security controls that allowed it to happen, the failure to notify the regulator, and the failure to register an information officer. It is never just about the email, Kayla. The email was the symptom, the governance failure was the disease.
The broader lesson for every organization listening today is this. Your PoPIA obligations do not wait for a sophisticated cyber attack, a shared folder with the wrong permissions, a misaddressed email, a WhatsApp group that includes someone who should not be there. These are breaches, and they trigger real, formal, legal obligations that you must be ready to execute on quickly.
I always say PoPIA is not an IT problem. It is an everyone problem. Every single person in your organization who touches personal information is a potential compliance risk. Train them.
Beautifully put. Right, moving on to our second story. And this one is quite something. I want you to picture this. You look out your front window and there, mounted on the side of your neighbor's house, next to the HVAC unit and the prepaid meter, is a small white box, humming quietly. That box is an AI data center. California-based startup Span, which originally launched in 2018, making smart electrical panels to help homeowners manage their electricity costs, has partnered with Nvidia, yes, that Nvidia, to create what they are calling XFRA units, miniaturized distributed data centers that can be installed on the exterior walls of residential homes and small commercial buildings.
Now, for context, let's understand the scale of the problem they are trying to solve. A traditional data center uses as much electricity as approximately 100,000 households. The artificial intelligence boom is placing extraordinary pressure on global energy grids. Communities near large data centers are already raising concerns about water consumption, heat generation, and infrastructure overload. Span's idea is to flip the model. Instead of a few massive centralized facilities, you build a vast distributed network of smaller nodes, each one drawing on unused electrical capacity already present in residential neighborhoods.
And each node is not exactly a Raspberry Pi. We're talking about 16 Nvidia RTX Pro 6000 Blackwell Server Edition GPUs, 4 AMD ePi-C CPUs, and 3 terabytes of memory, all housed in a liquid-cooled Dell server setup. This thing is serious computing power in a relatively compact package.
Span has also partnered with PulteGroup, one of America's largest home builders, and pilots have already been deployed in multiple residential communities. They are targeting approximately 100 nodes in the southwestern United States this coming autumn.
For homeowners, the proposition is actually quite appealing. You do not purchase the hardware. You do not pay for installation. Span installs the XFRA unit, a smart electrical panel, and a backup battery at no upfront cost. In return, you receive infrastructure upgrades and compensation based on Span's use of your energy and network.
So your house becomes part of the AI internet backbone and you get paid for it. Stephen, why are you looking like that?
Because I am an information security practitioner, Kayla, and my brain immediately goes to the questions no one is asking loudly enough yet.
Which are?
When AI workloads are distributed across private residences, questions of data sovereignty, workload isolation, incident response, and physical security take on an entirely new dimension. Who is responsible when something goes wrong in the node sitting next to your neighbor's geyser? What data flows through it? Is it encrypted end-to-end? Who has access to the workload logs? What happens if the homeowner's home network is compromised? Does that create a vector into the broader AI infrastructure?
Those are genuinely good questions.
Thank you.
And they are not yet answered publicly. The technology is compelling. Span claims it can deploy 8,000 units 6 times faster than building a comparable traditional 100-megawatt centralized data center and at 1/5 of the cost. Those are remarkable numbers, but the governance frameworks around distributed residential AI infrastructure are still very much under development.
For South African practitioners, I think the relevance here is broader than just, this is a cool American story. Edge computing and distributed AI infrastructure are coming to our environment too. The questions Stephen raised apply equally to any distributed compute model. Who owns the risk? Who responds to an incident? How do you enforce isolation and access control across infrastructure you do not physically control?
Precisely. We will watch this one with great interest. And our third story today is one that has been generating significant heat for several months now. Starlink, and whether South Africa will ever get it.
Starlink, for anyone who hasn't come across it, is the low Earth orbit satellite internet service operated by SpaceX. It currently operates in over 20 African countries, but South Africa, as of May 2026, remains the only major neighboring country without a Starlink license or a confirmed launch date.
The licensing delays relate to South Africa's regulatory framework, specifically the requirements around local ownership structures under ICASA's rules. We are not going to wade into the policy debate today because that is frankly a whole separate episode. What we want to focus on is the evidence. What has actually happened in the places where Starlink has been introduced?
Because the evidence matters, and the evidence is actually quite striking.
In rural communities across the African continent where Starlink is already operational, the documented effects include meaningful improvements in educational access. Students and teachers who previously had no reliable internet connectivity are, for the first time, engaging with online educational resources, digital curricula, and remote learning platforms. That is not a hypothetical. That is happening.
And it extends well beyond education. Farmers are accessing real-time weather data and precision agriculture tools that simply were not accessible before. Small businesses in underserved areas are reaching customers beyond their immediate geography. Telemedicine connections are being established in communities that previously had limited access to healthcare information.
In South Africa specifically, SpaceX has proposed an investment of $2 billion, with $500 million committed to connecting 5,000 rural schools. If that materializes, the estimated impact is 2.4 million learners gaining access to reliable internet annually. That is a significant number.
There is also a confirmed Vodacom partnership announced at the Africa Tech Forum in 2025, which would integrate Starlink into Vodacom's rural coverage strategy. So the commercial appetite and the potential for meaningful impact is demonstrably there.
But the debate is absolutely not settled. And this week, broadcaster and author Reddy Tlabi published a piece on the Africa Unscrambled Substack that makes that very clear. The article is titled, "Don't Hand South Africa's Democracy to Elon Musk for 30 Pieces of Silver," and it argues forcefully that framing the Starlink debate purely as a technology or connectivity question misses something important.
Tlabi's argument, in essence, is that critical communications infrastructure is not politically neutral, and that the question of who controls it and what values and behaviors that person has demonstrated in other contexts is a legitimate governance concern, not simply an obstacle to innovation.
The piece references Musk's conduct in other jurisdictions, including Brazil, Germany, Australia, and the United States, and makes the case that a constitutional state has an obligation to scrutinize these questions carefully, in the same way that the U.S. scrutinized TikTok's Chinese ownership, or the EU introduced sweeping digital regulations.
It is a thought-provoking read. Rational people can and do disagree with some of Tlabi's conclusions, but the underlying point that governance questions around critical infrastructure ownership deserve serious, not dismissive, attention is one that practitioners in this space should engage with honestly.
What the public consultation data does tell us is that 90% of respondents favoured policy adjustments to allow Starlink to operate in South Africa. ICASA's evaluation timeline suggests a decision may come later in 2026 or into 2027.
The connectivity opportunity is real. The governance questions are equally real. South Africa deserves a framework that addresses both rigorously.
We will keep you posted as this develops. And there you have it. This has been Priviso Live. We hope you found today's episode interesting. If you did, please share it with your colleagues, your friends, your family. Word of mouth is a strong driver of podcast growth.
If you want to hear more of the same, subscribe to Priviso Live on Apple, Samsung, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or YouTube.
And if you need security, risk, or ICT legislation advice, contact Priviso Consulting directly at admin@priviso.co.za.
And if you have topics you'd like us to cover or questions about anything we discussed today, reach out to us. We love hearing from our listeners.
I'm Stephen.
And I'm Kayla. Thanks for listening.
Stay secure.
Stay safe, everyone.